Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great day. So I remember a couple of years ago at the Emmys, Alex Bornstein was awarded supporting actress, best supporting actress for the year in her role in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which all my Jewish friends loved. And she got up there and she said, she's a Jew, and she said, "I'm dedicating this to my grandmother." The officer says, "I won't have the heart to shoot you, but somebody else will." And Alex Bornstein looks at the crowd at the Emmys as she's getting the award, and she says, "My grandmother stepped out of line, and that's why I am here today." An amazing story, but what I actually want to talk about today is the supporting actress or supporting actor. You know, it's quite ironic that you have a movie, wins the greatest Emmys, brings in hundreds of millions of dollars, but yet sometimes it's not necessarily the main actor or actress that contributes the most or makes the biggest difference to the movie. Sometimes it could be a supporting actress. And sometimes we always go through life and we wonder, are we a supporting actor or actress? Are we a main actress? Where are we on the scale and what's important? And I want to tell you something very important about this week's Torah portion. The first verse speaks about Noach, and it says, Eila told us Noach, these are the offsprings of Noach. Noach was a righteous man. He was complete in his generation. The rabbis, they know every nuance. They focus on every nuance. And they say, why does the Torah say he was righteous in his generation as opposed to what? And there's, of course, like everything in the Talmud, there's an argument. And the rabbis argue. One sage says, it means that he was righteous in his generation full of wicked people. Imagine if he lived in the generation of Abraham, where there wasn't such a bad influence from the wicked people, he would be even greater. That's one opinion. So the word B'derot comes to tell us how much greater he could have been. Think about him living like a rose amongst the thorns. But then there's another opinion. And the other opinion says the opposite. It says, no. God's telling you, the Torah is telling us, Tamim Hayah B'Dorotav, relative to his generation, to all the wicked people, he was good. But otherwise, he was just an ordinary guy. So the Talmud leaves us puzzled. Is Noach like Abraham, like Adam, like Sarah, like King David, like the prophetess Miriam? Or is he just another Joe the plumber or Joe Schmo who just happened to be the right place at the right time and God needed someone to save the Jews and he chose him? But the question the Rebbe asked in one of his talks, which is so brilliant, the Rebbe said, I don't understand. If you have an option to choose a positive or a negative, why would one of the sages, Rabbi Yochanan, who happens to be his name, say that B'derota means that he was just righteous, just okay for his generation? Why would he choose a negative? Why not choose the positive? In the Torah, we always know to look at something with a good eye, with a positive eye. What's going on here? And the Rebbe says something very powerful. The Rebbe says, actually, Rabbi Yochanan is looking at the greatest positive. What Rabbi Yochanan is telling us about Noach is, you go through life and you wonder, you look at the history books, you read about Columbus, you read about George Washington, you read about MLK, you read about King David, you read about all the great men and women who were great leaders, who were saints. But how about the rest of us? How about all those ordinary people? Are we significant? Do we make a difference? What about us? What about me and you? What about the regular person that's not a saint, that's not a tzaddik? And that's why Rabbi Yochanan says, Tamim Hayah B'Dorotav, no. What the Torah is teaching us about Noach. Noach is one of the most powerful characters in the Torah. You know why? Because although he's just a supporting actor, he wasn't as great as Abraham. Tamim Hayah B'Dorotav, he was just good relative to his generation. He was just the right man in the right place at the right hour. But yet, you know what he teaches each and every one of you and I? That you don't have to be a saint. You don't have to be the main character. You don't have to be a Moses. You don't have to be a Rebecca, a Sarah, a Miriam to change the world. Even someone like Noah, who was righteous for his generation, was able to save the world from destruction. And that's how the Rebbe says Rabbi Yochanan, who's this great sage, was looking at it in a positive way. He sees Noah as the greatest revolutionary leader in the Bible, because he's the one that teaches us that it's okay to be ordinary, and that ordinary people are the ones that change the world. Supporting actors and actresses make up the best parts of the movie. I think about the last 18 months during COVID, And I think about the ordinary people who have literally changed this world. I think about the woman we knew who took in a foster child who had nowhere to go for 3 months because she wanted to help. She wasn't discovering the next iPhone. She wasn't discovering electricity. She was just changing the world for one person. One of my favorite stories is about this kid who's sitting at the ocean and he's picking up starfish and he's throwing it back that were washed up ashore, and he's throwing it back into the ocean. And after a while, this elderly man comes over to my wise man and says to the kid, listen, kiddo, you know, the beach stretches miles. There's thousands of starfish. What difference is it going to make if you throw a few back in? And this little young kid looks at this old man with a twinkle in his eyes. He says, for this starfish that I threw back in, it makes all the difference. My friends, let's remember that each one of us plays a tremendous role in changing the world. And each one of us has an impact on so many people. And may we learn from Noach that although we might not be the greatest revolutionaries, we could change and impact the world in a positive way. God bless you and have a great day.